How did you feel when they said, yes, Danielle, wear this swim cap for the game?
I had no idea they were going to put that on my head. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's no way I'm wearing that. Why would you do that to me?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another special best of episode of the Women's Game. As I reflect on one full year of the Women's Game, I feel so fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to speak with so many incredible players and hear their stories of how they found success in the game that we all love. Last week, I shared some of my favorite moments with members of Triple Espresso, Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Mal Swanson. So be sure to listen to that if you haven't already. This week, we're going to dive into interviews with some of my favorite international players. I've been so privileged to be able to speak with some of the brightest stars on the international stage. The game is growing at an incredible rate, and if there's one thing the World Cup and Olympics have shown us, it's that more teams are getting the exposure and recognition they deserve. This year, I spoke with players from Zambia, Norway, Brazil, Ireland, Wales, and more. The game has never felt more connected or vibrant. So in this episode, I'm bringing you moments from 3 phenomenal guests who have not only inspired fans, but also helped push the boundaries of the sport. We'll hear from Dutch midfielder Daniëlle Donk, who's captivated us with her skill, passion, and ability to rock a swim cap. I'll also share moments from my interview with Jamaican powerhouse Bunny Shaw, whose relentless determination has put her country on the football map, and who can't seem to stop scoring goals for Man City. And I, of course, have to share some of my favorite moments from England's own Georgia Stanway, a player whose fierce competitiveness and drive are helping shape the future of the game in Europe and beyond. To start things off, I want to revisit my chat with Daniëlle Donk. I spoke with her about her start in football and whether or not she saw being a professional footballer as a viable career path when she was younger. So I read online as a kid that you started playing your football with boys, and I've heard from a lot of footballers that this is the case in their early playing days. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like when you were young?
Women's football wasn't that big yet, especially for younger girls. I think I was 4. I was very young when I started playing football. So I had to join this boys team. And they were actually amazing. Like in my village, SV Valkenswaard, it was called. And the boys just accepted me for who I was. I mean, when you're young, it doesn't really matter. But when you get older and older and older, it gets a little bit more awkward, I would say. But it was more the opponents who were always a bit like wary about me. But after the games, they were also very respectful mostly. That was just the situation when you were younger, I think. And I think it helped me a lot in my game, to be fair.
Yeah, that's definitely what I hear. Did you feel like women's football was something that was a career option when you were young, or did you not really have those examples?
Well, to be fair, when I was younger, I was always told that if you wanted to have a career, like a professional football player, you had to go to America. So
really?
I was always looking up to the Americans, yeah.
Like, who did you look up to?
Literally, basically more of like the whole system of football.
Yeah.
I mean, also you guys, of course, but we had amazing players. I mean, everyone, I think, knows about Mia Hamm.
I love Mia Hamm, too.
Yes. I mean, I did a full-on essay and everything on her, so yeah, she was mostly the one I was looking up to. But, I mean, I just think for women's football, it's a bit better organized when I was younger in America. But it's good to see that's all growing now, also in Europe.
Definitely. I know the game globally is just really taking off, and we've loved following your Lyon team and following Champions League, also following the WSL really closely. It's been so exciting to just see the game grow so much. But I agree, like when I was growing up, I looked up to the U.S. women's national team, and I feel so lucky that I had that example. So when I was like 7, me and my sister were like, we want to be professional soccer players, and we felt like that was actually possible, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I also looked up to against my own national team. There were some very strong women in there, and they created the path that we're on now. So, I mean, I'm very thankful for them, of course. But I just think you guys were so much more of a hype and known everywhere. And yeah, I always wanted to be a professional football player. So that's why, I don't know, it was always America.
As much as I felt bad bringing up old wounds, Danielle and I also spoke about our matchup in the 2019 World Cup final, and she revealed some things that went into the Netherlands game plan for that game. So your team made the World Cup final in 2019. We played against each other in the midfield. My memories of that game are that it was such a battle. Like, it was so physical. You and I kept stealing the ball from each other. You're so hard to play against physically because you tackle hard and you run everywhere, but tactically as well. You have such great vision, passing ability. It's such a challenge to play against you. Sorry to make you rehash this, but what do you remember about the final?
First of all, we changed our system, and I kind of hated it because I was so looking forward to play on the midfield against you guys because I don't know, like it's always such a, like you said, it's such a battle, and I still run everywhere. But I feel like I played on like the right wing a little bit more. Yeah, it was just, I don't know. We just kept hearing that America scored the whole World Cup in 12 minutes every game.
I know.
It was crazy.
We scored early every game.
Yeah, so it was already like after the game, they were like, oh, well, but they didn't score until like the 60th minute. This is their first goal. I don't get it. It's a final. They shouldn't score. Yeah, so I get very competitive.
Well, I know, yeah. I bet. So you feel like you guys changed your system a little bit for that game? Yeah,
we did. We were trying to keep you out of the 16s because guys are very effective. But I do remember you.
Well, I just remember on Rose's goal, you had just stolen the ball from me. And I was like so embarrassed and was like, oh shit, like I just really made a big mistake. But then somehow Crystal got it back and then I passed it to Rose and then we scored, which was so great. But I did want to ask you, I know that you guys had won the Euros in 2017, which was a huge sign of growth for the Netherlands program. And then making the World Cup final was another huge accomplishment. And you said that you were amazed by the growth of women's football in your home country, saying, if I look at women's football and the hype, it's amazing. I think that's what I'm most proud of, that we got so much respect from the Netherlands. Can you just tell me a little bit about what you've seen from your home country in response to your team's success?
It's like when you start playing football. So when I was 4 years old and I was like growing up, it's like all the older people are always saying, oh, but football is a men's sport. You can't ever play in the first team at SV Valkenswaard because you're no future for us. It's not possible. After 18 years old, you have to go to the women's side. And stuff like that was always really annoying and triggering me. So I was always like, I'm going to play in full stadiums in my head in America. And I'm going to show that we are actually very, very good. And I'm going to get the respect of the older people, the older generation. I was very young and I remember all of it. And I don't know, so we had our ups and downs, but with Serena, I think she built a team that was just kind of born for legacy because we had so many good players in there. I mean, like the ones you just named, like Lieke Martens and Miede Marchinies van der Zanden on top. Yeah, it is one of your best attackers. So yeah, we really went for it and we did well. We kind of stayed together for like 4 years and obviously, we won the Euros. We had a lot of luck with the route we were taking in the tournament, but I guess that's also part of the deal in football. And then no one really expected that we would do so well in the World Cup. So we were very happy that we could continue the success we had and that we could show in another tournament that we are actually here. Like, it's just not a one-time thing. And then you could actually see that the Netherlands was like joining. I mean, the Euros was just crazy because it's your own country. The stadiums were full, streets were full. They were doing a whole parade towards the stadiums. Yeah, it was incredible. My Instagram followers went up. Stuff like that. It was amazing.
It's been so cool to see the Netherlands continue to be a force on the global stage. It was a battle at The Hague in December when the USA eked out a 2-1 win in that recent friendly. And I can't wait to see how the Netherlands do in the Euros this summer. They're a really strong team with players who make the game so fun to watch. Daniëlle is such an important player for the Netherlands, and chatting to her about her national team was so enlightening. But I also loved hearing Danielle's origin story of how she grew to love the game. And another world-class player I got to speak with about this was Jamaican and Man City forward Bunny Shaw, who had such a unique introduction to football. Okay, so you're from Jamaica. You grew up there as a kid. Can you paint us a picture of what football in your childhood was like?
For me, growing up, I wasn't really allowed to play. I always say this.
Because you were a girl?
Because of the lack of opportunities that there was. Because when I was growing up, there wasn't a senior team.
Okay.
So it wasn't until 2014 when Sidella Marley came on. So growing up, wasn't allowed to play football, but football was just always around me. So we played in the street, similar to like Brazil. So we played in the streets and stones are our goals. So the goal was literally at my gate. So all the time they would kick it, I would hear it at my gate, banging, banging, banging. So sometimes I would go out and I would just sit down. Yeah. And then what I normally do, I would normally wait until my mom leaves to then go out and play and then probably shower before she comes back. So I remember one day she left and they asked me if I could just go in the goal, you know, just to just block the goal. And I went in the goal and, you know, like, luckily for me, the person that was in front of me was bigger than me, so they blocked everything. But I was just back there, like, when the ball went out, to just run or get the ball and stuff like that. So for me, that was just it. And then, you know, one day my mom came and caught me and gave me a whooping and, yeah.
If you'd go out and play with boys in the street, how would the boys react? Did they care that you were a girl?
I think at the moment they were shorting players and I was just there and they're like, you want to go in goal? And I was like, yeah, for sure, no worries. But then I just didn't get it, like, what made this sport, everyone gravitate to this sport? Because I was in England for a little bit when I was younger and then I went back home. And then when I went back home, it was just all about football in the streets. But then on the bigger stage, it's track and field, the Olympics and stuff like that. So I was just like, what is it about this sport that gets everyone? But then when I went in the goal, and running for the balls, I was just like, oh my God, like the adrenaline and the excitement that I got. I was just like, oh, I love this, you know? And then my mom came and that was the story pretty much.
I can totally relate to the adrenaline and excitement that Bunny speaks about from her early days of playing. Competing and being around teammates and just striving to be better is really what I miss the most about playing. Given how Bunny got into the sport in an almost accidental way, it's been so amazing to see her journey with the Jamaican national team, who have achieved newfound success in recent years. In 2019, they were the first Caribbean nation to ever qualify for a Women's World Cup. And then in 2023, they made it out of the group stage into the round of 16, which is no easy feat. I spoke with Bunny about this success and how they are laying the foundation for more Caribbean nations to follow in their footsteps. Well, in 2023, Jamaica went to the World Cup, and this time you reached the round of 16. This was the first time ever that either the men's or women's Jamaican national team progressed to the knockout stage at a World Cup. What was it like in 2023, not just making the tournament this time, but competing and having success while you were there?
So 2019 World Cup, I was in college. We only had one player playing professional football at the 2019. One. Wow. So everyone was in college. Was Shayna.
Okay.
So everyone was in college, vibing out, you know, playing little college football. You know, college football and World Cup is different. So we learned from that experience and we knew that, okay, if we want to go to the next World Cup and not only, you know, go, but just get out the group and, you know, show the world what we're capable of, we're going to have to adjust and fix certain things. Yeah. And it started with players leaving and playing professional. We need more players playing professional. You can't have everyone playing in high school and college. So we learned from the 2019 World Cup, and then going into the 2023 World Cup, it was very difficult because the planning, some of the games that we were supposed to play before the World Cup didn't happen, and whether that mean the coach didn't correspond with the JFF, but we're just in limbo. So we're kind of worried if we're fully prepared for the World Cup, because I think we're supposed to play 12, 13 games and we ended up playing 6 or 7, some number around there. Right. So it was a bit of panic. We were panicking a little bit because we're like, okay, we did all the things that we could control in terms of playing professional and doing well with our clubs and stuff, and coming now and to see that some of the things that we had hoped that would be better from the 2019 World Cup is still the same. So we were panicking a little bit, but ultimately, you know, we had a meeting as a group and we were like, guys, like, listen, we're just gonna have to trust ourselves. And we kind of have a point. We kind of had a point to prove, you know. So we kind of had that chip on our shoulder, to be fair. But we came together as a group and we said, guys, listen, we did what we could have. We couldn't do any more. Yep. Yes, the preparation wasn't the best, but let's just go out and compete. Let's just give it everything. Let's just die on that pitch. And it didn't work. My first game was I got a red card, so. But
I mean, competing, going out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
I got a red card. Hey, Can't say I didn't give it my all.
Whatever it takes.
Yes, that game, that result that we got against France, just skyrocketed our confidence. Like at that point, we could walk across the water.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely helped and boost our confidence. And going into the Panama game, we got a really good result. And then here comes the big bad Brazil. And we approached it just the same as we approached the France game, because we knew that, okay, if France beat Brazil and we can tie with France, then it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we are as a team. We always like try to analyze and see before we go into each game. But yeah, that Brazil game, as you can see, we were like warriors. We were fighting for everything. And yeah, ultimately we got to, because we gave everything. Yeah. Because we gave everything. When we arrived to the round of 16, people were on drips and hamstring is gone, ankle is swollen. We were like thin.
Yeah.
If we had beat Colombia, I don't know if we would have enough players to play England.
What does your team take away from something like that? From a tournament where you did give it your all, you got further than you had ever gotten before. It took so much out of you, but you showed that you belonged there and you guys had success. What do you take with you moving forward now?
We always have a little motto that we say in Jamaica. We say, we're little but we're talawa. So you might have everything and I don't, but once I cross that white line, we're even. Like, you're just as a player as I am. At the end of the day, only your best is good enough, and you want to walk off that pitch and say, like, I couldn't do any more. I couldn't give anything else today.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've taken, that, listen, sometimes you don't have to be the best prepared team, but once you give your all, sometimes the universe can work for you. And in the World Cup, we definitely gave it our all, and we're proud of, we're happy that we were able to bring, the joy back to Jamaica. Other Caribbean islands, other people messaging me from Caribbean, say, like, you guys inspired us. We're going to have to keep going, because to be fair, as a Caribbean island, you're like, oh, we're playing against America. We're playing against Mexico. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then when you see Jamaica got out the CONCACAF and got to a World Cup, got out the group, playing with, if you had to look at me and if you had to look at someone and say, Jamaica's going to get out the group with France and Brazil, you're going to be like, are you crazy? You get me? So just for them to see that and them to believe that, okay, if Jamaica can do that, like, we can try a thing or two and let's see how far we can get. So I think that's
it's inspiring.
Yeah.
Truly such an incredible conversation with Bunny. And I am so excited to see what she does on both the club level and the international level for years to come. Bunny is a world-class striker, which she demonstrates week in and week out at Man City. I missed playing with her there by just one season, but I would have loved the opportunity to play together. Another one of my favorite conversations I had this past year was with my friend and actual Man City teammate, Georgia Stanway. Georgia and I have had so many good times together, and seeing her help lead the Lionesses to victory in the 2022 Euros was really special. Georgia has joined me on the podcast a few times this year, and it's been really fun to reconnect with her. Georgia is such a dominant and aggressive player, and I got to ask her about this, as well as growing up with her brothers and how that shaped her playing style. I read somewhere that you started playing with your brothers when you were 3.
Yeah.
And you were playing on like a U7 team. You continued playing with boys until you were 13. I want to hear about like those early days, what you remember, and what about like what made you fall in love with the game from such a young age?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember so much. I can't even remember what I did yesterday. But no, what I remember is I've got a brother that's 4 years older than me, and then I've got 2 younger brothers, and yeah, we were just constantly playing in the garden. Whenever somebody was getting took to football, I was always going along. And yeah, eventually the coach would let me join in, and I probably didn't really know what I was doing, kicking a few shins here and there. Nothing's changed really. But I just loved it straight away. And I started playing with the boys team up until I was about 12, 13. And then there was a rule that girls couldn't play with boys anymore. So I had a year out of football, where I just did every other sport. And then that was just because the nearest girls football team was about 2 hours away from me. So in order for me to play football, it was a massive commitment for my parents. So my parents wanted me to make sure that I was, confident with the decision. As soon as I was confident, I had a year of pestering every time, asking 24/7, can you take me? Can you take me? My mum took me along to the nearest girls' club, which was Blackburn Rovers at the time. And then, I signed for there and I was there for 4 years.
Wow. So you actually took a year away from football so your parents could make sure you really wanted to play.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. You also mentioned this. You're famously like pretty aggressive on the field, and I've always loved that about you. Do you think that that's just like this inner competitiveness that you're just like, I will do anything to get the ball? Or do you think it has anything to do with your childhood playing other sports or playing with boys?
Yeah, I think all of that. I think also the fact that you've got brothers. Well, I've got brothers. It's kind of like survival of the fittest.
Okay.
You are fighting for the front seat in the car. You are fighting for, the biggest piece of birthday cake. Everything was just a battle, and the house was constantly competition with each other. So as much as it was healthy competition, I think that's kind of where my passion, my aggression, my competitiveness kind of comes from, and it's like win at all costs.
Oh my gosh, I love that about you. Like I mentioned before, it was so special to see Georgia and the Lionesses win the Euros in 2022. It felt so similar to the impact that the 99ers had on women's soccer in America, and it just seemed like the culture of women's football in England really shifted in that moment. So I loved reliving that with Georgia in our conversation. When we go back to the Euros, the final game that you won at home in England, when the final whistle blew and you knew you'd won, what was that feeling like, and who did you celebrate with first?
I don't know if I will, hopefully I do, but I don't know if I will ever get a better day in my life. Nothing in the world mattered. Leah Williamson sent me a video last week, and it was like we were celebrating and everyone was together, and then we just did a full lap of the pitch, like knee sliding, waving our hands, like screaming, just like running in like absolute freedom. I genuinely don't think I will get a better day. Just as a whole, like family being there.
Yeah.
We were at home, we sold out Wembley. We'd beat the Germans. I was about to go and leave to go to Germany. Half of them were going to become my teammates. I was going with a little chip on my shoulder. Everything had just played exactly how it was like a dream.
Yeah, I think in moments like that I've experienced, I think you go so long with like this forward thinking mindset, like, well, tomorrow I have training, and today I have to make sure I'm fueled correctly and that I sleep well. And then next week we have this huge game and I have to make that roster. We have this thing coming up, and you go so long with, I have to be ready for the next thing.
Yeah.
That when the whistle blows and you win in that moment, it's almost like the future goes away for a second, and you're just truly present in the moment. It's like a relief and just a joy, and you're not worried about anything else because you just like did it.
You just want time to stand still. It's a crazy feeling. You'll have had it when you've won things. And I just remember being on the sides. I was off at this point, and I was looking to the left and I was looking to the right, and then the Germans were up and down off their bench, and then you'd look at the clock and they were trying to keep it in the corner, and my legs at this point were like cramping like so much. I remember looking around and everyone was crying. And I was like, come on, like, cry. I just couldn't cry. I was just so high on life.
I know. I wouldn't have expected you to cry. When we won the World Cup, I was bawling, obviously. But I wouldn't see you as a crier, really. But it's so emotional. I'm so happy.
I felt bad that I wasn't crying. I was like, should I be crying?
I feel like coupled with the Euros win, you guys also were finalists at the World Cup last summer. And women's football in England is in like kind of a golden era. The growth of the game has been so incredible to witness. It's been kind of similar to the 99ers in the USA. This huge growth and like fandom of women's football just growing in your whole country. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. Maybe some of the differences you've noticed on and off the pitch since you guys won the Euros. How much did that victory and the Lionesses' success change women's football in England?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think we had some players that really took responsibility for this, but we just used the image to be able to make things happen. We used the fact that we'd won to create more than just a winning environment or a winning culture. It was about making change within the country. Lotta Moya, especially her and Leah, they worked with the government to make sure that there was PE lessons, which is like physical education within schools, and every school it was compulsory, and when girls football was on the curriculum, and yeah, just like little things which you don't really think of, but on the bigger scale are like absolutely massive. Yeah, I think the participation numbers, the inclusivity numbers, the accessibility numbers, everything was through the roof. And I think you can see it as well, the fact that everybody's loving women's football. Arsenal are selling out the Emirates every single game, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know too much about what's changed on a weekly basis because obviously I came to Germany. But I think in terms of like the coverage, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like even when I go home, I'll get spotted, which is something that you're not really used to. Obviously wouldn't have happened before the Euros. But yeah, everything, people's lives probably changed overnight.
I love seeing my friends succeed and win, and I'll always support Georgia, except when she's playing against the US, obviously. Speaking with Daniëlle, Bunny, and Georgia reminded me that everyone's path to the game is different, and that's what makes it really special. I feel so lucky that they shared their stories with me. I also got to ask some not so hard-hitting questions, and one of my favorite things to dive into was Swim Capgate from the 2023 World Cup. I actually had Lindsay Horan on the show to tell her side of the story, but I was very excited to ask Daniëlle about it as well. We have to talk about this. This is the moment that everybody remembers from the 2023 World Cup. You and Lindsay Horan had an infamous moment together. Despite being teammates at Lyon, you were kind of each other's arch nemesis on the pitch in the World Cup. So we had Lindsay on the show to talk about it from her perspective, and she said this.
This is football, and this is how it goes. Like, when we step on the field, like, no one on the opposite team is our friends. Like, that's it. I hope you agree with that. But it's like, when I go and play Dan, I'm not thinking about my friendship with Dan. And so in that game, like, Dan's going to do, like, this is one thing I really respect about her as a player. She's going to do whatever she possibly can to win the game and help her team. And like part of like what's so great about it is her aggressiveness, like doing anything to like win the ball. And again, like, yeah, I didn't like the challenge and it freaking hurt. And in that moment, I'm just like, what the, and of course, like I see Dan right away and I'm just like, I'm going to say something to her. and then you score, like whatever after the game. I think the big reason that I got over it quickly was I saw her in the swimming cap. There was one moment once the final whistle blew where I was just like, are me and Dan gonna slap hands or what are we gonna do here? Could go anyway. And then I like look over at her and I see her in the swim cap. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That was their way of stopping the bleeding.
So Daniëlle, we have you here. This is your Lyon teammate, Lindsay Horan's side of the story. Can you tell us what happened from your point of view? First on the foul and then Lindsay's reaction.
Yeah, like she said, I go hard at tackles. And especially, when it is the same as when I play against you, I have to go a little bit harder because you guys are just so big for me. Like, you're just too tall and everything. Like, I'm only 160, so I just have to give it a little bit more. And I think she just was out of balance a little as well, so she like fell a little bit harder. I mean, obviously, I didn't want it to like hurt her or anything. That's never my intention, because my intention is just fully to get the ball, but just give it a little bit more physical, So I shoved her off the ball. She wasn't happy with that. I was very proud of myself that I could do that, but I mean, after that, I was already like, oh, here we go. I could see her on the sideline, and I was just like, honestly, I was hoping, I really hope you just get up and just like you're able to play, because like not my intention to hurt anyone. And then they got the corner, and there was so much going on. The referee had no idea what was going on. She literally said nothing, but she was trying to talk so much, but it just didn't come out of her mouth or anything. And then obviously we are in the zones there, trying to block the runners for the corners. And I mean, that's one of like her great talents. She's an amazing header, especially when you make her angry. She's just stepping up a little bit more.
I know.
She just banged it in with her head. I mean, fair enough. I mean, that was a very great goal. I just wish it didn't happen right at that moment.
I know. I know. Well, I feel like Americans, and I was watching, and we were like, Lindsay Horan is our hero. Like, it was such a big moment for us.
Yes, of course.
But what was going through you and your teammates' minds? Did that moment feel like almost bigger than it was because of everything that led up to it? Or did you guys just kind of like recover from it quickly?
I think before we were quite good in the game, but especially when that happened, it was 1-1. And then you just, I think we're just trying to get the point, like not another goal against, because whenever we went forward, there was no one there. And we were kind of like, it was just finished for us. We were just all empty. Our system, the way we were pressing before, wasn't really working anymore. We weren't doing it anymore. So it was just, I felt like that was like a bit of like a turning point. I think America was better at that moment than we were. And I think in the first half, we were a little bit better. So it was an interesting game. Yeah, so I wish I never made that tackle. But it's football, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it was a little bit of a momentum shift. You guys started so strong. You scored early in the game. And then I think that moment, like you said, was a turning point. But towards the end of the game, you were involved in a collision with Roosevelt and you were bleeding from your head. So your team medical people had you wear a swim cap to kind of stop the bleeding. And it kind of turned this like, it's not silly that you were bleeding, but it kind of was like silly that you were wearing a swim cap. How did you feel when they said, yes, Danielle, wear this swim cap for the game?
I had no idea they were going to put that on my head. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's no way I'm wearing that. Why would you do that to me? And I kept saying that to the physio and the doctor, and they were like, you're wearing this. There's no other option, or you have to go out of the field and we have to stitch it. And she was like, this is the most efficient way. You won't lose time. You can continue playing. And I was just like, I literally have no other choice than just to say yes now.
Oh my gosh. Did you end up having to get stitches?
No, they glued it. It was all fine.
Oh.
It wasn't that big.
Okay. Well, so after the game, then you and Lindsay posted a picture together smiling, like everything was all good. And I feel like that's what it is. Playing against a friend and a teammate is on the field. It's all business. Like you're just there to help your team win regardless of the opponent. But afterwards, you guys kind of like laughed it off. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, no, that's just how it should be as well. Because I see those that have no bad intentions. And I know if it was the other way around, it would have been the exact same. I did think it helped that she scored that goal.
Otherwise, there's no forgiving.
It does make it a little bit harder, I think. The swimming cap, of course, did help as well. But, I mean, Lindsay is an amazing person. She has, I don't know, she's just so nice and so genuine. So I was just happy when I looked over, she was smiling at me. It's just all forgotten after the game and just to be friends again.
I'm so glad that these two could put their differences aside and be friends again. But wow, what a moment that was in soccer history. I think Lindsay gave Daniëlle van de Donk a swim cap as a joke after the most recent USA versus the Netherlands game in December. So needless to say, we will never forget the swim cap. Another unserious moment came with Bunny discovering how she got her nickname and how she grew to love it. So you got your nickname. I heard that your brother gave you this nickname Bunny because you loved carrots.
Yeah, I carrot cake, carrot juice, everything carrot.
And it just stuck. Why do you think this nickname stuck with you?
Because they would make fun of me with it. And I would cry all the time and I would get so frustrated and I would hide myself away and I wouldn't want to go on the streets because I knew they were going to make fun of me and joke around with it and I hated it. And then one day I'm just like, man, I'm going to embrace this name. When they say it, I'm just going to smile. I'm going to laugh. I'm not going to make it faze me, even though sometimes it did get to me. But I just didn't show that. And then it just slowly faded. The jokes just slowly fade away. And then now everyone calls me Bunny.
And you just totally took it back and now you go by Bunny.
Here we are.
Oh my gosh, what a story.
Yep.
Bunny is having an absolutely incredible season with Man City again after being named the Golden Boot winner last season. I loved learning more about her as a person and hearing about her reclaiming this nickname. It's like a superhero origin story. To wrap things up, I wanted to share one more moment with Georgia where we talk about our infamous pit crew at Man City. As I mentioned, we played together in 2020 at Man City, And Georgia, I was racking my brain to remember what this joke was, but my favorite memory of our friendship was when we got the one-piece match day outfits that had the zip up the front, and we felt like car mechanics. And what you, me, Rose Lavelle, Kira Walsh, and Abby Dahlkemper, I think we were calling ourselves the pit crew.
Yeah, pit crew. And remember when we had a picture by that massive wheel because we were fixing the wheels?
We were walking over to our game. So if you can't imagine it, it's like literally what a car mechanic would wear. It was like this zip up one piece long sleeve pantsuit.
But it was like light blue, which was even worse.
It was light blue, Man City colors, and it was like cotton. Like it was like a onesie. And it was like hilarious. And we were walking over to our game and we all stopped and squatted down next to this giant wheel that was like, I don't know, a piece of construction equipment. And then we were like dying, laughing, giggling, calling ourselves the pit crew.
Somebody will have that picture for sure.
I definitely have it, so we will definitely post it with this episode.
That was funny.
We had some really good times with that little group.
Yeah, we really did. Us five were like, we were always together, and there was always something happening to someone.
I know. I just feel like you and Kira and Rose were just always giggling.
Usually at you also.
I know. I was the brunt of a lot of jokes, but that's okay. I just like to be included, so it's fine. Georgia is just the best. I loved all of my conversations with players from around the world, and I'm excited to bring you even more interviews with the brightest stars on the international stage. If there's anyone specific you'd love to see on the pod, write to us at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. We always want to hear from you, so send in your guest suggestions as there is so much more in store this year at the Women's Game. That wraps up this Best of International Guests episode. I had so much fun revisiting these interviews, and I hope you did too. Next week, I am very excited because we're bringing you the best of good vibes. There are so many wacky moments from that show with Becky and Lynn, and I can't wait to relive them all with you. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you soon.